What if I told you that a country, and not just any country, but one with over 242 million Muslims, is quietly turning its back on Islam? That the world's largest Muslim majority nation is slowly, steadily, and almost silently returning to its ancient spiritual roots. No wars, no revolutions, no breaking news. Just a deep cultural shift that's quietly reshaping the identity of a nation. Temples are being rebuilt, ancient rituals revived, and yes, Lord Ganesha now appears on their currency. So, what's really going on here? And why now? And what does this reveal about the deeper soul of a civilization? If stories of forgotten heritage and civilizational awakening interest you, you are in the right place. Make sure that you subscribe and let's uncover what the world isn't talking about. Welcome to Indonesia. Today, the world sees Indonesia as a Muslim country. But for over 1,000 years before Islam arrived, it followed Sanatan Dharma. The archipelago was once a land of temples, Sanskrit inscriptions, and Vedic rituals. The Ramayana wasn't foreign, it was part of everyday life. These islands weren't called Indonesia, they were known as Swarnadvipa, the land of gold, and Nurantara, divine archipelago. Indian traders didn't come as conquerors. They came with knowledge. They brought knowledge, architecture, rituals, and dharma. What followed wasn't resistance, it was acceptance. By the 4th century CE, Sanskrit and Pali inscriptions had appeared across Sumatra, Java, and Kalimantan. Kings took Sanskrit titles. Cities were renamed with sacred meaning. Shiva, Vishnu, and Ganesh became household names. The Mahabharata and Ramayana weren't just heard, they were lived. By the way, you remember I told you about Binomo earlier? It helps people start their journey, even if you are a complete beginner. They give you access to a demo account where you can practice trade without using real money. It's just a virtual fund, like a sandbox for learning. You can test indicators, read charts, and get a hang on how trading actually works with zero risk. And once you're confident, you can switch to real account. We will start with 4,000 rupees for this trade. So once the trade is set, you can also go ahead and use the indicator that they have. First, we'll choose our asset. Let's go for an altcoin index. So it is showing that it will go down in 3 minutes. So let's set timer for 3 minutes. And now we'll execute the trade. Great. Our trade is executed. Now we just have to wait for 3 minutes and we just hope that the price drops. Wow, it just made me 5,680 rupees. So once the trade is complete, you can instantly withdraw your earning using IMPS straight to your bank account. And you can also deposit using UPI. And if you're just starting out, no pressure. You can learn using the demo account first. Use the promo code HST25 while signing up. You'll get a 2x bonus on your first deposit. The link is in the description. Check it out if you're ready to start your side income journey. Now, let's get back to the empires of Indonesia. Over the century, powerful kingdoms rode across Indonesia. The Srivijaya Empire, based in Sumatra, became a major Buddhist maritime power. The rulers supported Dharma beyond their borders, sending monks to Nalanda and building monasteries across Southeast Asia. The Shailendra dynasty followed, constructed Borobuddurs, the largest Buddhist temple on earth, a monument that reflects both wealth and spiritual depth. And then came Majapahits, the last great Hindu empire of the region. It ruled over most of modern Indonesia and beyond. Its capital, Trowulan, was a Vedic city with temples, Sanskrit texts, and sacred fire altars. The nation's motto, Bhinaka Tungal Ikar, unity in diversity, was rooted in Vedic philosophy. But it wasn't just the empires, it was everyday life. Villages practiced fire rituals. Temples followed Vastu principles. Priests recited mantras from the Yajurved. Court language blended Sanskrit with Old Javanese, a legacy that still survives in modern Indonesia. Indonesia didn't imitate India. It became an extension of its civilization. For 1,000 years, these islands lived by Dharma. And then it vanished. Not through war, not through destruction, but through a quiet shift. Brought not by soldiers, but by traders and belief. Islam. It didn't arrive with army. It came quietly on the waves, carried by traders, mystics, scholars, not invaders. There were no great battles, no mass conversion, just a slow, deliberate shift. A new idea entering the old world. The earliest contact came through the Western Islands, Sumatra, Java, where Arab and Persian merchants had long been docking, exchanging goods and stories. By the 13th century, something began to change. These traders were no longer just merchants, they were missionaries. The teaching of Islam, particularly its Sufi form, began to spread, not by force, but by personal relationship, through local marriages, through the promise of brotherhood and divine unity. The first Islamic kingdom emerged in ports, places like Samudrapasai, Malacca, Demak. These were trading hubs where adopting Islam meant more than just spiritual alignment. It offered political power, trade advantages, and diplomatic alliances with the rising Islamic world. Slowly, locals began to convert. And once the kings accepted the new faith, their courts and subjects followed. But with the new religion came a new identity. Sanskrit gave way to Arabic. Temples were forgotten, repurposed, or buried by time. Ancient rituals were labeled as kafir practices and discouraged. The sacred verses of Ramayana and Mahabharata were silenced. The yagna fire no longer burned in public. Over generations, the memory of the old Dharma faded, but yet not surrendered. As the great Hindu Majapahit Empire collapsed under pressure, a small group of priests, nobles, and artisans fled east. They crossed the sea not to escape Islam, but to preserve Sanatan Dharma. And they carried with them not just their faith, but their gods, their scriptures, their architecture, their ritual soul. And they reached the island of Bali. And in Bali, time stood still. Bali was never meant to be a last stronghold. But when the rest of Indonesia adopted a new identity, Bali chose to remember the old. As the Majapahit Empire fell, priests, poets, artisans, and nobles crossed the sea. They weren't fleeing war, they were protecting Sanatan Dharma. What they built in Bali wasn't just survival, it was continuity. Even today, Bali practices what most of the world has forgotten. Sanskrit is still chanted, fire rituals are still offered, temples still follow Vastu. Every morning, offerings are placed at homes, roadside, and shrines. Mountains are gods, trees are sacred. Time has not moved here, not spiritually. And this isn't a symbolic version of Hinduism. It's structured discipline. Sanskrit naming, temple cosmology, everything mirrors Vedic India. Deities like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Saraswati, and Ganesh are worshipped daily. The temple themselves are aligned with cosmic directions, laid out like living mandals. The island breathes Sanatan Dharma. Even during centuries of Dutch colonialism, Bali held firm. But after the Dutch left, things took a turn. Indonesia's new government declared that only monotheistic religions will be officially recognized. Hinduism, with its cyclic worldview, was not considered valid. For a while, Balinese Hindus were treated as second-class citizens in their own land. They couldn't access government jobs. Their temples weren't protected. Their marriages weren't legally recognized. That's when the help came from India. In the 1950s, Indian diplomats and scholars intervened. They helped Balinese leader reinterpret Vedic philosophy for the Indonesian constitution, framing it around Ekam Sat Vipra, Buddha Vedanti. Truth is one, sages call it by many names. This allowed Hinduism to be presented as monotheistic, satisfying state requirements, while retaining spiritual depth. In 1959, Hinduism was finally recognized as an official religion in Indonesia. It wasn't just a legal victory, it was civilizational survival. Today, Bali isn't just a tourist destination, it's a living memory proof that a civilization can survive even when surrounded, outnumbered, and nearly erased. And something unexpected is happening now. Bali is no longer alone. Across Indonesia, in regions long thought lost to history, temples are being restored, rituals are returning, stories once silent are being told again. The past is waking up. For centuries, Bali stood alone, guarding a flame the world thought had died. But today, something astonishing is happening. The flame is spreading across Java, Sumatra, and even Borneo, regions once thought to be fully Islamicized. Sanatan Dharma is rising again. In villages around Mount Bromo, the Tengris people still identify as Hindu. They never converted and still perform fire offering, worship Shiva, and observe the sacred Nepi festival. In Yogyakarta, the Ramayana is no longer just a myth. It's performed every full moon in front of the Parambanan temple, as it was centuries ago. And in East Java, a quiet revolution is underway. More than 100,000 people have converted to Hinduism in last 2 decades, and the numbers are growing. But what exactly is fueling this revival? Some say that it's identity, a return to its roots. Others believe it's something more mystical. Take the cause of Imam Sukhadi, a devout Muslim teacher who has practiced Islam his whole life. One day he claimed that Lord Shiva appeared in his dream, and what followed was unthinkable. He not only embraced Sanatan Dharma, but made his mission to bring 10,000 Muslims back to Hinduism every year. And he is not alone. Across Java and Madura, other former Imams, mystics, and scholars are also returning to Dharma, often quietly, but sometimes publicly. These aren't fringe cases. These are respected community figures. Their message is simple: Dharma never died, it just waited. Even Hindu rituals are being more accessible. Indian gurus are working with local leaders to simplify rites, cutting away caste rigidity and ritual complexity so that people can return without fear, without confusion. But perhaps the most powerful reason for this revival is a prophecy. In the late 15th century, as the Majapahit Empire crumbled, a royal priest named Shabdapalana walked away from the court in silence. But before he vanished, he gave a warning. He said, 500 years from now, I shall return. And when I do, Dharma shall rise again in this land. That prophecy was passed down quietly, generations after generations. And now 500 years have passed. Coincidence or destiny? Today, Shabdapalana's name is being invoked in the temple ceremonies. His return is seen as symbolic, a reawakening of memory. And many believes that that time is now. From restored temples in Java to Ganesha statues hidden in old mosques to Balinese youth rediscovering the Vedas. This isn't just a revival. It is a return. Indonesia was never meant to forget, and now it's remembering. Quietly, patiently, powerfully, one prayer at a time. And so, the soul of a civilization long buried is breathing again. But no matter how deep you bury the truth, Dharma always finds its way back. This is it from my side. This is Harry signing off. Stay curious.